You guys should know by now, I am definitely partial to heavy cavalry, and although these guys are not heavy in terms of armor, the regiment around here, Stag Knights, the Lost Sylvan Knights actually have 0 armor as they are ethereal. Regular ones only have 60 anyway, which is not a ton, but they are heavy in terms of mass, and they are monstrous cavalry. Very similar to Demigryph Knights, low model count here, only 24 models. They do hit harder than Demigryph Knights with more weapon strength and charge, but as I mentioned, they are squishier. They do have Vanguard, of course, as well, and Frenzy. Pretty good stuff. As for the rest of the army here, this is myself up against Order del Scale once again. Got some Deepwood Scouts, Waystalkers, some Glade Riders here, including one Hagbane Tip. My army is led by the new Generic Lord, Caster Lord, the Spell Weaver, here with lore of Dark Magic, actually. We've got Soul Stealer and, yeah, Chillwind to help control the battlefield and do some AoE damage. Bunch of Dryads. Got the Blade Singers as well. Since we're up against the Skaven, we're going to be popping them into the high weapon damage stance here in just a moment. So they'll go up to like 50-something weapon damage, just a little bit less AP. As for the Skaven, tons of chaff, of course. Some Rat Ogres, brought the Unclean, plus a Bell. We've got the Pit Fighters of Hell Deep, some more Rat Ogres there. Rattling Guns, plus Poison Wind Mortars. And a couple of Wolf Rats out to the side here. Some more chaff. You can see my Archer line kind of pulls up. I'm going to start dishing a bunch of damage. Big old Soul Stealer here in this pocket to help deal damage, especially the Rat Ogres. That'll be great value. But just in general, anytime you can cast on a blob is fantastic. And yeah, those arrows just gatting down there. Mortar charges do come in. They get some contact on the Glade Riders there. The Sylvan Knights are going to be the target that I want to most avoid getting hit by the mortars. They're definitely the biggest threat to them. Some Chillwind comes down. And of course, I got a Glade Captain here on foot as well. Haven't really shown her off too much. I tried to get some replays with using the Glade Captain in the kind of the Wood Elf rework time frame, but unfortunately didn't get the best replays. Didn't really actually get any replays that showcased her in a great light, but that's more on me, I think, and just learning how to use her appropriately. But we're able to pull some Rat Ogres out of position here and just start to pepper them down with the Deepwood Scouts, the Hagbane Tips, and so on. You can see Throt's kind of pushing out here. The Warlock Engineer does have the Warpstone armor, so he could, in theory, drain, but I didn't showcase it. The Blade Singers came in with the high weapon damage, just completely mopped some Hounds over there on the flank. They were able to get on them, or maybe not quite yet. But anyway, yeah, Blade Singers in here just blending those Plague Monks. They basically got a 1v1 engagement straight up against those Plague Monks, and I mean, I'll do a video highlight on the Blade Singers another time, but 51 weapon damage on that high weapon damage stance means they are basically Berserkers, but with better stats. It's kind of crazy, and you can also heal them. So there's that. I think Blade Singers are going to be maybe the most underrated unit in this DLC. You maybe not see them super often because they're a little bit niche, but the Sylvan Knights, we've been kind of not highlighting them the whole time. Of course, being ethereal, they do cause terror, and that massive charge means they can come in and basically one-shot this Poison Wind Mortar on the charge, which is fantastic. Mortars, you really need to get rid of the entire unit and like shatter them or rout them off, because even just one mortar model coming back will still apply the dot effect to your unit if it makes contact with its globe. So we're able to terrify them away, and all the Rattling Guns just break this big pocket, use the Glade Riders to then kind of chase some routing units. Got some Dryads coming in off the flank as well to get inundated in here and keep those the rats routing. Dryads also got a bit of a speed buff for those of you guys who missed it in this update. So they are a little bit faster. They can chase routing infantry especially a little bit more effectively, although I believe Skaven are still fast enough to largely get away for the most part. But Plague Priest also not doing too great. He got tangled up with the Spell Weaver and the Glade Captain in melee there for a bit. You can see Glade Riders just chasing rats all over the field. But the Stag Knights here, I mean, if we check in just in terms of breaking that missile pocket there, the fact they're able to do it so quickly and decisively, already up to 1,300 points worth of value, and lots more potential still left. Plague Priest, though, gonna just get absolutely broken down by all the Deepwood Scouts and so on. He goes down there. Unfortunately, my Blade Singers do get routed, but not before racking up 136 kills. A good amount of damage value as well. Yeah, 875 damage value, which is still not technically paying for themselves, but hey, there you go. They also got the summoned, and I don't know if it actually counts when you're killing a summoned unit. I want to say, I need to do some testing and see if it actually counts the value if you kill a summoned unit. Not 100% sure on that. There is a possibility that they actually did get a little bit higher value there if you count the summoned unit as well. But so you see the Sylvan Knights, this is kind of because of the mass changes. They're having a little bit of a harder time disengaging cleanly from there, but eventually I do get them to disengage. Once again, just charge down these rattling guns before they can get them, and of course shut down the mortars as well. Just roll up all these weapons teams, kind of the name of the game here. Thrott's still relatively healthy, but I'm feeling pretty confident that we can cycle charge him in the late game. The Unicorn is generally a very good mount, and the Spellweaver does have it here. If you take a look at her stats, she's got, decent charge, 50 charge, not the best weapon strength, but she does deal magic damage. Throt, not the most armor, he does have some physical resistance. The magic damage will come in handy there. Deepwood Scouts out of ammo, moving in to fight Clan Rats in melee. It should be just fine here. Deepwood Scouts actually pretty solid stats. I mean, not amazing, but okay. Enough that they can certainly fight Clan Rats in the late game. Sylvan Knights are off in the woods, chasing weapons teams. This Warlock Engineer also. One thing about the Sylvan Knights in particular, though, and Stag Knights in general, I would say they are pretty comparable to Demigryph Knights. I think Demigryph Knights are slightly, just a little bit better baseline because of the armor, but that's kind of discounting the Vanguard and the speed. I think that the Vanguard and the speed in particular makes this unit just insanely powerful, that you can win mobility very decisively, very quickly, and come in from angles and positions that you wouldn't otherwise be able to with an elite shock cavalry. This is really the only elite shock cavalry that has Vanguard deployment, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they might have missed one or two here or there, but I believe, like 99% sure, that they're the only elite shock cavalry now with Vanguard deployment, which is something that's really quite powerful. In particular, you know, because the ethereal trait here, you really need magic damage. I mean, you kind of needed magic damage before, to be honest, against the Wood Elves, or at least it was good in case they brought any forced spirit units. A lot of their units really rely on physical resistance, but now with the Lost Sylvan Knights a possibility, every single matchup, pretty much, you'll want some kind of magic damage to deal with these guys, because they are one of the strongest units in the DLC. Just barely 3 points, not paying for themselves technically, but I mean, the tactical value of just being able to shut down and terrify away all those weapons teams. You can see even still the mortar managed to get 1587 in terms of value just by draining those blobs, and that's why mortars absolutely got to be a super high priority target. I'm still hoping they maybe nerf the effect a little bit before the patch goes live, but I'm not holding my breath. Yeah, there it is. Like I said, 137 kills for the Blade Singers. They got some really nice value. Going to be highlighting them in an upcoming replay when I'm able to. Dryad's also getting some pretty decent values, kind of chasing units around a little bit there. Glade Captain actually did pay for herself on foot. Not too expensive to take in this guise, and she got about 900 points in value, especially against the Plague Priest. That was fantastic. Spellweaver, pretty good. I didn't get her damage and value necessarily, but that self-healing, the slows also from the Chill Wind are pretty nice, and just generally pretty nice to have a cheap caster lord that can also be mobile, and you have a variety of winds of magic, or lores of magic rather, to choose from. Waystalker does his thing. He's a pretty cost-effective character. I'm a big fan of him in general. For not ordered to scale, Samurai Warrior, my apologies, man, super sorry about that. I played so many games, I kind of get them mixed up a little bit. But yeah, you can see that the mortars are very powerful here. As for the rest of the army, it kind of had a little bit of a rough outing on some different units. The Hounds, even still, having a rough time doing some okay damage. But yeah, the mortars, the Poison Wind unit's definitely going to be a very big benefit anytime you're playing as the Skaven. But in terms of this matchup, like, Rat Ogres have always been kind of in a little bit of a weird place in this matchup, which is why I think now just going wider with Hounds, maybe taking like 1 or 2 Brood Horrors, since they have 90 speed, is probably the way to go, rather than trying to take Rat Ogres. But it kind of remains to be seen, you know, definitely still need to develop the meta a little bit, and that will take a long time, and many players playing many battles, so well, I don't usually make a tier list immediately when one of these DLCs comes out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I guess we can go ahead and just quickly finish up with some comparisons with the Stag Knights, and of course Demigryph Knights are going to be the most obvious comparison, so we'll pull them up here. In terms of monstrous cavalry, I'm going to go out and say again that the Stag Knights are probably the best at 1500. They are 100 points more expensive than the base Demigryph Knights, right? But again, if we go ahead and compare here, higher weapon damage and higher charge means they hit that much a little bit harder. They do have lower base combat stats, but again, plus 15 speed, which is actually not as much as you might think. Demigryph Knights at 75 speed are pretty fast for elite shock cavalry, all things considered. The Stag Knights do have a little bit more leadership, tiny bit more HP, but 65 less armor is pretty significant. Of course, they pick up a whole host of abilities down there. Physical Resistance, Vanguard, Woodsman, and Frenzy, all of which are very, very beneficial. The Stag Knights, honestly, probably could be like 1550 and like 1600 maybe, and it would still be cost balanced, I think. But yeah, the Demigryph Knights, you do have access to buffs a little bit more easier, but you still can do some things with the Stag Knights, certainly. Like, I haven't used this in a battle yet, but kind of been theory crafting around. We did some testing, Samurai Warrior and I, with the Volkmar Demi-Blob versus a Demi-Blob featuring like the Glade Lord. You can take him horse, or even Great Stag's probably a better option. Take the Glade Captain also on the Great Stag. You can get these passive buffs in an AoE. You got plus 5 melee attack, plus 5 melee defense. Glade Lord also gives an additional plus 5 melee attack, and then here plus 5 melee attack. So you got 15 extra melee attack constant in an AoE, which is absolutely massive. That definitely puts them up to, 50 melee attack base. And of course, you can pop that Helm of Discord for a massive damage spike, in particular lowering your opponent's melee defense. It's a pretty strong kind of blob, and I mean, these two combined are more expensive than Volkmar, but they also have some combat prowess. I don't know, Volkmar has a lot of combat prowess too, specifically against infantry, but here, yeah, I believe it's a little bit of an oversight that the Glade Lords don't have armor piercing on the Great Stag. That seems like that's a little bit of a bug right now, so we'll look for that to get fixed in you know, the live patch when it comes out. But in theory, you know, with armor piercing damage up on the Great Stag, plus the Glade Captain also have armor piercing damage, they can punch pretty hard themselves. They're just, you know, a little bit squishier, not the self-healing, not the same anti-infantry capability as someone like Volkmar, but very fun stuff, kind of some interesting things to think about. What do you guys think about the Stag Knights? Are they wildly OP? Are they going to be very strong? Do you think they're going to be too squishy? Let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoy. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell. Every time I upload, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.